It takes a village to raise a child. It is from an African proverb. In my case, it took 2 countries to raise my son. I'm a single mother for 18 years, a mentor for 3 years, and a teacher for 30 years, and a college student for 15 years. I'm here to share a story about my life project, raising my son internationally, and how a wonderful collaborative project can occur in daily life. My son was born and raised in Kobe, Japan. Thankfully, my white American ex-husband accepted his job in Japan for our son to be born there because we lost our first son in the US. We moved from the US to Japan for our second son. My son and my leap of faith journey started from his one statement in Portland. ママ、僕はアメリカ人だよね。アメリカで勉強する権利があるよね。ホームレスになってもアメリカで勉強する権利があるよね。Mom, I'm an American citizen. I have my right to study in the US. Even if I become homeless, I have a right to study in the US, correct? It was what my son said to me when he was 9 years old, when I took him to my international teachers conference at Portland State University. In my mind, did he just say he wants to study? He was avoiding any of his studies, including English. I encouraged my son to interact with English-speaking children. For that reason, I took him to the only one full English service Catholic church in Kobe, Japan, almost every Sunday. It took us more than an hour each way to get there by walk, bus, and train. It was the only place I could think about, except international private schools where I tried to get a job so I could afford his tuition. Because my son is mixed race, he does not look totally Japanese like me. Once the US immigration officer at the airport asked me, "Where did you meet him?" That was a surprise question for me. In my mind, okay, I guess he has been with me since I was pregnant. How can I answer this question? What does this question really mean? It was a good question, which I have never thought about. I answered to the officer, "This is my son. He came from me," thinking, how can I prove he's my son? Another time, when we were stopped by an US immigration officer, the air between the officer and me became tense. So my son started crying. The officer told me that it was my fault. A fault. I was coming to the US from Japan legally, and I was trying to come to the US for my son's education because he is an American citizen and thinking of his future. He was doing his job, and I was doing my job as a mother. I told my son quietly, "Please remember this moment so you can figure out how to make this system better as a bridge between the US and Japan in the future. They are just doing their job." I wanted my son to feel his belonging to both of the countries because he felt outsider from both. Another officer kept telling this officer, "Look her attitude, and she does not do anything wrong." He was trying to let us go. Japan is a relatively homogeneous country. My son and only one more student were different color in his school, which had about 700 students. Just imagine 698 students totally look Asian. Only 2 students are mixed with white, a different color. One time when I went to pick him up at the park at dusk, he told me, ママは僕がどんな思いをしているかわからんよね。Mom, you don't know what I've been through. I was stunned. I thought about how he had been feeling isolated from others in Japan. I am in the majority in Japan, equivalent of white person in the US. My son is noticeably a minority due to his appearance in Japan, but of course, he was born and raised in Japan, so his inside is totally Japanese. It is funny that his whiteness from his face stands out in Japan. In the US, his Asian side from his face stands out. He is opposite from a chameleon. People in Japan talk to him in English even though he only spoke Japanese. People admired his Japanese, which is his mother tongue. Education is my specialty. I went to a graduate school in Japan while teaching English to research how to educate my son and student to be bilingual and bicultural. 10 years old is a key stage for language learning. So, when my son declared his strong will to study English in the US, which opened a huge new door for him, a strong motivation is a key for any learning. I told him, そうやね。母さんに何ができるか考えさせて。Well, let me think how I can help you. My son became a leader for my life and a follower in my adventure for him. My father encouraged us to find a place for us to live comfortably because he saw our struggles in Japan. However, it was not easy ride. Shortly after we moved to the US, my son cried saying, ママ、僕がここに来たいって言ったからここに来たんだよね。Mom, I said I wanted to come here. That is why we are here, right? Of course, it was a big challenge for him to adapt a new life in the US without knowing much English. I replied, そう、もう戻れないよ。やり通さないと。Yes, my son, we cannot go back now. We want to make it. Then it was just amazing to see how much he started talking English, being in the US only for 3 months, even though his academic struggle lasted almost 5 years since then. 我以外皆しなり. Everybody is a teacher for me. Through this adventure, I learned that I do not know what I do not know. To know what I do not know, I need to be a student to everybody, including my own baby. 18 years ago, when I was cleaning a room, and I was thinking aloud to give up my dream to go to graduate school. My son was 2 years old at that time. He overheard me saying this and told me, ママ、でもそれがママのやりたかったことなんでしょ? Mom, that is what you want to do, right? His words spoke to me deeply. Without his words, I'm not here. We are all collaborators, each other. We do not know who and what will teach us when and how. Even before my child was born, my mother and I always talked about what the best way to educate my mixed-race child. Elementary schooling should be in Japan, and the rest of the education should be in the US. Japanese elementary schools are good for discipline and learning Japanese, which is called to be a hard language to learn. And American schools are better to nurture special talents. This plan was programmed in me so strong that it kept me going, even after her death and my divorce when my son was 2 years old. Our family, friends, teachers, mentors, co-workers, the Catholic Church, Lake Oswego Mayor Mr. and Mrs. Studebaker's family, even strangers on the street and the grocery stores have been supporting our journey. I have never expected this challenging, exciting, and blessed journey with my son. It is a miracle for me to see my son now in college in the US. This journey is a good example of an internationally collaborated project. In this individualistic society, we might ask ourselves, why do we need to collaborate? What makes us excited about collaboration? How can we create our own family and community bonding with feeling love and building trust? What collaboration can we perform with others through our jobs and daily lives? Respect each other, be beneficial in our community, and create community to be thrive, interdependent, and collaborative. I hope my son and I can be beneficial for this society. It is time for us to return the favor to our community, which has been nurturing us. And after all, I think we work simply to enjoy meals together with our favorite people. For that reason, we like to work together to build wealth in many ways, understand, respect, and care for each other, building a relationship in a loving way and building trust. So we can be beneficial for our society, which nurtures us. My son told me with his relaxed voice a couple of years after living in the US, ママ、今まで僕両方の国でのけ者だったけど、今は両方の国が自分の国になった。両方の国に友達がいる。Mom, I felt I was outsider from both countries before. Now I feel belonging to both countries. I have many friends in both countries. This comment made me feel deeply thankful. It's worth effort to come to the US. I think it is time for us to create win-win-win situation by taking actions collaboratively, beyond categorizing people based on gender, race, age, disability, or socioeconomic status. So we can benefit from any ability from many kinds of people to create something new. Thankfully, my son and I are enjoying creating community through having suppers with many kinds of family and friends from many countries. Currently, my son is 20 years old. It took a huge village, combined 2 countries, to raise him, and he raised me. I thank all our supporters in both countries. Now, I hope all of us here can see together how such an awesome international project can occur collaboratively in our daily life. Fortunately, my sons become totally bilingual or bicultural. My son asked me in English fluently after his high school graduation. So, now, what do you want to do, Mom? Currently, I am a mentor at Portland State University. This is my ideal job at this point. While my son achieves his dream job, he helps me to achieve my dream job. I dedicate this speech to honor our supporters, especially my parents in heaven. ありがとう、父さん、母さん。Thank you, father and mother. And I would like to say thank you for listening.